no one believes me about the 14th century mating habits of the mink. I just feel like that's not something I would cover, or that it's a thing.
Okay, settle down. Let's call this meeting to order. First of all, we have any citizen comments tonight? Of anybody? Things not on the agenda? Hearing none. I'd just like to welcome everybody here to our council meeting tonight. And we'll move right along and go to the consideration of approval of the agenda.
So move, Your Honor.
Second.
Motion is second. The clerk will call the roll.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Motion passes. We'll next consider approval of the minutes of the April 16th and 23rd meetings.
So move. Second.
Any discussion on those? Clerk will call the roll.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Very good. Then we'll have consideration of the approval of the consent calendar.
So move.
Second.
Any questions on the consent calendar of anything? Have the clerk call the roll.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Consent calendar passes. Business of the mayor, we have a proclamation tonight. This is the 50th anniversary of Home Rule in Iowa, where the legislature gave cities a chance to have some say over what they do. Sometimes we wonder if there still is home rule, but most of the time it works. So anyway, we would like to have a proclamation in recognition of the 50th anniversary of home rule. So if there's a motion to approve that proclamation, I will read such.
So moved.
Second.
Third.
Clerk will call the roll.
Malero.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
And I'll read the proclamation. Whereas home rule is essential to effective and responsive municipal governance in Iowa and provides flexibility to make decisions at the local level where decisions are made closest to the people they impact and can be tailored to fit local conditions, needs, and concerns in order to better serve taxpayers. And whereas the City of Charles City supports home rule and the powers it provides to make local decisions that best reflect the residents of our community. And whereas the citizens of Iowa approved the adoption of home rule in the Constitution of Iowa on November 5th, 1968, and whereas this is the 50th year of municipal home rule in Iowa, and whereas home rule continues to be vital to the health and prosperity of all cities in Iowa, therefore I, Dean Andrews, Mayor of Charles City, Iowa, do hereby recognize the 50th anniversary of municipal home rule in Iowa and proudly support its continued authority. In testimony whereof, I have hereunto subscribed my name this 7th day of May, 2018. And we will forward this on to the league, and they will have that as part of they're encouraging all the cities in Iowa to make such a proclamation for this 50th anniversary, and we will certainly forward that on to them as part of our support of that proposition, or that amendment to the Constitution of 50 years ago. So that's all the business I have. We'll continue on with a public hearing on the Clark Street Trail Extension Project. We have a discussion on that. Who wants to take that one?
You want to open the hearing?
Oh, we have to open the hearing. Oh, yeah.
Oh, so move.
We'll open the hearing.
Yeah, there
You
we
don't
go.
need a motion,
No.
just open it, yeah.
Yeah, just open.
Do we have a filing of affidavit of publication?
Yes, Your Honor.
Any written comments or objections?
I didn't get any. Did you get any, John?
No.
Any oral comments or objections tonight?
Move to close.
Second.
Had a motion to close the hearing. Clerk will call the roll.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Motion passes. Now we'll have consideration of Resolution 5818, which is approving the final plans of this project.
Well, yes, the City Council approved the preliminary plans and specifications for the project, as well as setting the hearing and letting dates at the January 15th City Council meeting. Now, this project is an extension of the trail project that was constructed in 2013. It will include a 10-foot wide recreation trail along Clark Street, which will begin at Terrace Road and at Lakeshore Drive. It will also include ADA pedestrian ramps at the street crossings and signage. Now, there were no addendums that were issued during the bidding phase, so the final construction documents, they match the previously approved preliminary plans and specifications. So I would recommend approval of Resolution 58-18, approving the final construction documents.
Any questions of John, or any questions in general?
It's so moved since there were no changes.
I'll second that.
Motion is second. The clerk will call the roll.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Motion approved. So next we'll have Resolution 59-18, which is awarding the contract.
Yes, this project is being funded through the Transportation Alternatives Program. It's federal funds, so the letting was held by the Iowa DOT, and that was held in Des Moines on April 17th. And 2 bids were received. The low bid was submitted by Heartland Asphalt. They submitted a bid of $102,396, and Blacktop Services, they submitted a second bid, about $20,000 higher at $122,459. The engineer's opinion of probable cost for the project was $180,000. So the agreement, the TAP agreement, provides for reimbursement up to 80% of the construction costs, and so that is up to, we had $144,000 that was secured through the TAP funding. The Iowa DOT, they first reviewed the submitted bids, and they determined that Heartland Asphalt did submit the lowest responsible bid, and they've prepared contracts and bonds, and they've sent that to the city. And what they are asking for tonight is for the city council to concur in the award and to award the project to Heartland Asphalt. I will then send Heartland Asphalt the the contracts and bonds, and those will be approved at the next council meeting. Now, the construction will take place this year. The project has a 30-day calendar period with a late start date of August 27th. So once the contract is approved, they'll be able to start and then have 30 days, but they have to start at least by August 27th. So I'd recommend approval of Resolution 59-18, awarding the bid to Heartland Asphalt.
I'd so move.
Second.
Any further questions for John? Not, the clerk will call the roll.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Motion passes for the contract to Heartland Asphalt. John, I think you mentioned before that the difference in what we were approved for through the TAP grant, will that difference then maybe be able to be used for such as Charlie Western Bridge?
Yes, when we requested that funding for the Charlie Western Trail Bridge, we weren't granted as much as we asked for, and that what they said was when more money comes back in, that will go to our project. So you're correct. What's not used in that $144,000 for the trail project will go back to NICOG, and then that will go back to our for our trail bridge.
Good. Good. Thank you. Next then is Resolution 60-18, approving the purchase of a pickup for the wastewater department. Discussion on that one.
Yeah, fiscal year 19, this last budget round, we budgeted a pickup replacement in the sewer department. And so we have reached out and got pricing on from both the state bid winner, which is Stevers Ford, and locally Molstead Motors. What we ended up with is we have 2 quotes. They're very close. The one for Stevers is about $179 cheaper. But given the similarity in pricing and since we are looking at item for item options on the vehicle, we would prefer to go with the Molstead bid for $29382. Also in your packet we did go back, and I had Dan talk to Molsted's, and they did put together kind of a breakdown of the truck that we're looking at to kind of really kind of better explain what all the different features were that were coming on the vehicle. So that's that second and third page that you see in the packet. Following that, we got the bid price for the $29,382, and then the $29,203 from Stevers. So we would recommend approval of the purchase from Molsted Motors. And Dan is here to answer any specific questions.
Questions of Steve or Dan?
It's always nice when we can do something
Yeah.
locally. So move.
Second.
Any further discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Malero.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Motion approved. I agree with Delane. It's nice when we can do something local, so when the opportunity arises. Next is consideration of Resolution 6118, approving the contract and bond for the South Cedar Terrace window replacement project. Discussion on that one. Heidi?
Thanks, Dan.
Heidi Nielsen, the Housing Director. The last council meeting, we awarded the contract for the window project at South Cedar Terrace, and the window project consists of replacing 324 windows on 20 buildings or 80 apartments. We are working with Atura Architecture. They're formerly the WWA Architects. They're overseeing the contract and the administration of the construction. We have gotten the signed contract from Stege Construction for the amount of $156,651,000. And the performance bond is in place, so everything should be ready to go.
Any questions for Heidi?
So there's been no changes since we talked about this at the workshops and everything?
No.
I'd move for approval so they can get started.
Second.
Further discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Motion passes for Resolution 6118. Next is Resolution 6218, which is approving the copier lease for the Housing Department. So Heidi's up again.
I am. Our current lease for our copier expires in July of this year, and we have contacted Marco, which is our current lease carrier, and then Koch Brothers and Advanced Systems, and gotten proposals for all three of them. We had requested a color copier and then 3 additional laser printers to serve the front office and our other employees. We do have a color printer currently, but we can eliminate that and all the extra costs associated with that with the color copier. And actually, the color copier that they have proposed is about, the lease amount is $100 less than our current old black and white copier. We were able to try out a couple of the different copiers. We took the two lowest bids, and we tried out both the machines, and Koch Brothers ended up being the lowest, and both of the machines were comparable. So the Housing Board is requesting approval of the contract with Koch Brothers for 5 years.
Any questions for Heidi?
Move.
Second. Thank you for all the work you guys put into figuring out what you wanted.
It was a lot of work.
But it is nice when you do something new and it costs you less, huh?
That's right. I was surprised.
Big plus.
It's also amazing.
So Steve, that's how it works. You gotta get Heidi to
So
teach
the
you guys
color
about
is
your-
cheaper.
Color is cheap.
I took from this.
Hey.
If A equals B and B equals C, then, you know, yeah.
The machine is cheaper, but the copiers are not.
Okay,
The
Heidi,
copy
thank
is
you very much.
Any further comments or questions? We've had many comments.
Yes,
but
yes.
Not, the clerk will call the roll.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thanks, Heidi. Next is Resolution 6318, which is approving the contract and bond for the 2018 Hilda Street reconstruction project.
Well, the 2018 Hilder Street reconstruction project was awarded to Kroll at the April 2nd City Council meeting. They had a total base bid of $1,288,280.86. And along with the base bid, they had submitted a separate alternate bid of $34,352 to pave the alley next to the new Dollar Tree store. That's the alley that is between 3rd Street and Gilbert Street. Now, if you recall the Hildreth Street project, that's a complete reconstruction from 9th Street to Gilbert Street. It'll include new paving and new underground utilities. And it does have a completion date on or before October 26th. And as we discussed last time, the contract does include the alley paving, which will be from 3rd Street up to including the sidewalk section at Gilbert Street. So I would recommend approval of the contract and bond for the project.
Discussion?
Yeah, I thought when we talked about this at the workshop, they were only going to do half of the alley in that block. And then we were supposed to kind of talk about it again. But I was thinking that was the amount that they were saying for half of the alley.
Yeah, and that was it included up to the up to and including the
So it was
sidewalk.
the
section.
whole,
Yeah,
basically the whole block instead of just half
Yeah.
the block. Okay.
At one time, we were talking about not doing it, but then we did include it at the end. We included that entire section, so the price that they submitted includes that.
Okay, so it was the whole
Yeah.
thing and not just half of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't mention it.
Well, I just want to make sure
Yeah,
we're all
but you're
clear
right,
on what
yeah.
we're actually getting done. Because to me, it didn't make any sense to only do half of it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so.
Especially when you go over and look at that area.
Right,
The whole thing needs to be done.
right. The approach isn't too bad there, but hopefully that'll stand up to truck traffic.
Yeah, it's in good shape. Plus, well, there's some. If you get into the approach and then you're into the highway, and it's just it's better to stop at the sidewalk,
Okay.
including the sidewalk. Yeah.
That's so move.
Yep, that's second.
Any further questions? Clerk will call the roll.
Hammond.
Aye.
Valero.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Next, we have resolutions 6418 and 6518 and 6618. We'll vote on separately, but I think they all kind of go together on the discussion part. So if you want to explain that, Steve, and then like I say, we'll vote on each separately.
Yep, absolutely. What we have here, these are the agreements that we're looking to approve with our Area Council of Governments, NIACOG. We have requested their grant writing and administrative services in coordination with the Charlie Western Bridge replacement. So in addition to the TAP funding that John was speaking of earlier, we're looking at 3 additional grant opportunities to help fund that bridge. One's a Iowa DNR Resource Enhancement and Protection Grant, or REAP grant. Another one is a state DOT Rec Trail grant, and the other is a federal Rec Trail grant. Each one of these grants, there's an individual agreement here for. They're each $500 for the grant writing process, and then each one has a little different max payout depending on what the award is. So for instance, the REAP grant, it's a $500 grant writing application fee, and then 1.5% of the grant award, which maxes at $1,500. The grant max with that is $100,000. That's coming up here due in August. The state DOT Rec Trail Program grant is a grant 1.5% up to $3,500. Max award on that is $400,000. That's due in July. And then we have the federal Rec Trail Program grant. That also is a $3,500 max cost as well, and the max award on that grant, I have on there $400,000, but I think it's actually $800,000. But most likely, the most we could get out of that would be $400,000. So, what we'd be looking to do is approve each of these contracts individually with NIACOG, so we could get started on writing our grants.
Any questions for Steve?
I'd move for 6418.
Okay. Second. Any further discussion on that one? Clerk will call the roll.
Valero.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
6418 passes. Now we're to 6518.
I'd so move 6518.
Second.
Any further discussion on that one? Clerk will call the roll.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
That one passes, and we'll go on to 6618.
So move.
Second.
Motion is second on that one. Any further discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
And that one passes. It's good to get that process started. It seems like every week somebody's saying, when's that bridge going to be done? You know, so.
Just today, I had several conversations.
Yeah. So, you know, it will require some local fundraising too, but I think the interest in that bridge will, I don't want to say make the local fundraising easy, but there's a lot of interest in that bridge. So hopefully we can proceed with some local fundraising also
And we have to know that there's something moving on it and going.
to keep it going.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Moving on then to 6718, which is approving agreement with SEH for the construction administrative services of the Clark Street Trail project.
Yeah, on the Clark Street Trail project, the early work, the project development, the survey design, and plan preparation, that was all completed in-house. But due to the summer's workload that we're expecting, along with all the project reporting that's required for federal aid projects, we're recommending using a consultant for the construction administration services on the trail project. Now, SEH engineers, they've submitted an agreement that will include providing on-site observation during construction. They'll review and approve material submittals and shop drawings, as well as preparing and completing all the DOT forms and performing the material and pre-audit and final audits with the DOT's Office of Local Systems. They'll also provide a certificate of completion and recommendation of a final acceptance. Now, the services will be provided on an hourly basis with a not-to-exceed amount of $9,900. So I'd recommend approval of Resolution 67 and 18, approving the agreement with SEH engineers.
Questions for John?
So move.
Second.
Any further discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Yeah, with all that we have going on this summer, that probably will be a good use of money to have some
Yeah.
work with that, because we have a lot going on this summer, so.
Well, and they're used to working with the DOT and things, and
Yeah.
that's a big part of a project like
Yeah.
that, so you don't get sideways with something stupid.
Yep. Very good. Next is consideration of Resolution 6818, which is setting a public hearing for the fiscal year 18 budget amendment. We have some discussion on that one.
Yes. It's that time of year to do the budget amendments. They are due by May 31st each year. It's the same process as when we go through the budget. You have to set a hearing, publish it, the hearing notice not any earlier than 10 days or later than 20 days prior to the hearing. So we need to have this hearing at our next meeting. The main reasons for the budget amendment are all of the RAGBRAI revenue and expenses, the Charlie Western Trail Bridge expenses that we've incurred to date, changes in timelines for various projects. We had some storm damages last fall, lots of trees that went down and extra work with that. We received some grants, and so we had to account for those expenses, and we had some bad water main breaks this year. Poor Corey was going crazy. So just lots of stuff that gathered all together made us have an amendment. We're showing that the increase in the revenues is going to be $1,720,302, and the increase of the expenses is $2,466,434. And some of that stuff is expenses that we're going to be getting bond revenues later in the fiscal year, so it will be coming in to go against that. I left my detailed sheets back on my desk. I'm moving too slow. We wouldn't start the meeting if I went to get them, but those are the big main reasons right there why we're doing the budget amendment.
And we don't have to adjust the budget for the income that'll be coming in later.
We don't
Then-
have to, yeah. I mean, it's not coming in until later, so it wouldn't be in this year, so
So it's
that'll come in.
after the end of the...
Correct,
Okay.
correct, yeah. And for revenues, realistically, the state doesn't care. A lot of people don't do anything with their revenues, but I always try to get them so
Right.
it doesn't look so bad at the bottom, but...
They don't care if you
expense-
take in money, they just don't want you spending money.
That's exactly right. They just care about the expenses, but I always try to go through the revenues as well and try to correct them as well. But all the department heads did a good job getting me numbers and information, so that always helps.
I'd so move. Sorry.
Second.
Any further questions of Trudy on that? And this will set the hearing for May 21st.
Correct. Then I'll publish this notice in the paper, then it needs to go in by Friday, I believe, is the last date to publish it, so.
Okay, clerk will call the roll.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Resolution 6818 is passed. Do you have any miscellaneous correspondence today?
None, Your Honor.
Brad, do you have any reports for the attorney side? No, Your Honor. City clerk report.
Yeah, I have a couple things. Our next meeting will be May 16th. It's a Wednesday. It'll be a planning session. And also, we are going to be starting registration for the league, the annual conference. I believe that registration opens up May 28th, and it's in Council Bluffs, and I don't remember the dates. Do you remember the dates, Steve, by chance? September, I
In
know.
September, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Like the
14th.
12th or 14th?
Yeah, it's somewhere in there. It's like mid-September.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit, maybe a week earlier than typical.
Yeah, it seems like it is a little bit earlier.
That's not so
if
far
you're-
away.
If you're going to be registering, make sure and let me know. I'll get you registered. And then the housing opens up June 11th is when we can make hotel reservations, although I found out Dean's mother lives there, so maybe we could just all crash with her. But,
She has lots of floor space.
oh,
That gets us in a lot of trouble with Trump and the administration.
oh
and all
gosh,
that
so
kind of-
wouldn't that be interesting? But if you are interested in going, make sure and let me know, because I'd like to get those hotel reservations done as quickly as
$50, right,
possible.
Yeah, there we go.
Goodness gracious.
September 12th through 14th, Trudy.
12 to 14.
Thank you.
Wow, that is early.
It is way early.
Although I remember being on September 11th before, because I remember right after 9/11, we went to a league meeting one time, and it was,
A little bit of a somber event, wasn't
Yeah.
it?
A little awkward.
But that's all I have. So yeah, let me know if you guys are interested in going. I'll get you registered, and then we'll get a hotel.
okay. Steve, any report from you tonight?
Yeah, just a couple things. Ambulance Commission met last week. As you may recall, our Ambulance Commission has been kind of inactive the last several years, and so we've got together between the city, the county, the AMR ambulance, and to see about reviving the Ambulance Commission, because it was really the role. The recent history has been just to oversee contracts with our contracted service, AMR, kind of review those for pricing and kind of lead us forward on that. But the 28E agreement that sets up that relationship is from 1983, and from when it was initially set up to the way it currently operates is completely different. So the Commission I guess basically the group is going to be recommending that we keep the commission, and so that it has a format of being able to recommend both to the city and to the county action. So we're going to be looking to update that 28E agreement. Plus, we're reviewing the most recent contract request from AMR Ambulance moving forward here. They're asking for some additional funding and some additional reduction in costs to them. So those are things the Ambulance Commission is looking at reviewing, and you'll be seeing more of that as we move forward here through that negotiating period. But the Ambulance Commission is something that the group feels has a purpose and will be continuing on here. At least that'll be their recommendation to you. Also, we met with the Broadband Commission last week, and just an update on the fiber project. We've done some additional analysis on the feasibility study. We've poked some holes in it where we thought we could, and so we've tightened it up even a little bit more. And the feasibility project looks, I mean, it looks, you know, feasible from a project standpoint. There's some additional work that we're going to be looking to do with Smart Source Consulting, which is the group that did the initial community survey on the project. And what they're going to help us do is help determine how we move forward, how we want to have this thing structured. One of the challenges that we have is we don't have that municipal electric utility to kind of build off of and kind of lean on. So we're going to be sort of, you know, a bit of a trailblazer in this. So we want to make sure we're doing this the right way and the way it's going to serve the community best. So you're going to be seeing a request from Smart Source Consulting that the Broadband Commission they're planning on attending our May 29th workshop to kind of give an update on that and express to the council the process to date, where we're at, and how this RFI will help from a Smart Source. Not only will it help us kind of figure out what we want to do as a community, but the idea is to have a request for information. So we hope to solicit possible partners that want to come in and work with the city on that for offering parts of those service. So that's moving forward, and we'll be hearing more about that at the next workshop, at the last workshop in May. Just update on the wastewater treatment plant, the WRRF. We're working on putting that together. Looked at additional some analysis today on potential rate structure, and you know, typically we've been doing a 3.5% increase each year. We're probably going to be looking at a bit more of an increase this summer, probably in July here, than the typical 3.5. Suffice it to say, though, you know, if we hadn't been doing those annual 3.5s, we'd be looking at something that's going to be twice as much. So that's encouraging, and so we're trying to flush out what those exact numbers are going to be. Obviously, construction costs will play a role. Operating costs, and how we kind of fine-tune that. We'll see what that's going to be, but that's something we'll look to be enacting here within the next month or two. And lastly, we currently have our foster grandparent director position advertised. Applications are due this Friday, the 11th, and so we'll be starting the interview process here in the next couple weeks. We hope to have somebody on board in June, so they can get a few weeks under their belt with Mary before she retires on July 20th. So looking forward to fill that position as well. Other than that, that's all I have.
How about the buses? You got any movement on them?
I'm working with Kevin Kramer from Nyakog, looking at options. We put the contract out for bid. We did not have anybody that submitted a bid to operate the transit system. So we're looking at possible solutions. I guess it could even be a possibility that we contract with Nyakog to provide the service. One way or the other, we'll have the service, but we're looking at different ways that we could set up this agreement so that we could possibly get some bidders on it. We're reaching out to other agencies that are using buses in transit that we might be able to consolidate, possibly foster grandparents, working that all together into one operating idea. So we've been having somewhat regular conversations the last few weeks trying to get that figured out, but no answers just yet.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Any board or commission or committee reports from anybody?
I don't have any of that. I'd like to ask if we could add to our agenda for our next workshop to talk about what we could do about getting sidewalk down here around the McQuillan building, since it just seems like nothing's happening. We're going on, what, the third year for sure of not having sidewalk downtown. So, I mean, if we got to go in and do it ourselves and bill it to somebody or whatever, I don't know, but I think we need to talk about that.
That's actually something we've got on that agenda.
Good.
And we reached out to the bank and the developer and invited him to attend and told him that's something we're going to be looking at doing here this summer. We talked about it the other day. We don't think it's at this point something we'd have done by the 4th of July, but nonetheless it's something we want to look at doing sooner than later.
It should have been done a long time ago, and we just had a lot of excuses and no action, and just time for that to end. Sorry.
Would definitely agree, Delaney. We've been over-patient on it. We need to get it done.
Yeah. Besides the questions about the Charlie Western Bridge, that's the other one that's, you get frequent
Yes.
questions on McQuillan Place and Charlie Western Bridge. So very much interest in those two projects moving forward. Any other comments? I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
You didn't give me a chance to say no.
On what?
Adjourning.
Oh.
We want to stay here all night?
Something about you're going to lose something.
or-
It's a